আমাকে কি দেখা যাচ্ছে?
জি, দেখা যাচ্ছে।
I'm actually joining from my car because I'm on the road, unfortunately. Uh, so because of the traffic, I got delayed. আমাকে দেখা যাচ্ছে না? ঠিক আছে। Sobhu Sahib, would you like to turn on your video?
Okay, sir, you can start. You can start. We are live now.
Okay, wonderful. So I want to, this is Habibullah Kareem. I'm the founder and CEO of Technohaven Company, and also the founder and coordinator of Blockchain Olympiad Bangladesh. I welcome you all to this panel discussion on how industry leaders can leverage the digital technologies at our disposal, and also, go forward in the adoption of these technologies, especially emerging technologies. So we have a very wonderful panel of speakers with us today. We have Mr. Masood Khan. He's the chairman of Unilever Consumer Care Bangladesh. And then we also have Mr. Subur Khan, who is the chairman of the Daffodil International University. We also have with us Mr. Abdullah Mahmood, the CEO of Thriving Skills and the organizer of this blockchain summit. And we are also, we will also be joined by Mr. Syed Alamgir, the chairman of Akiz Ventures. But since he is abroad, I think he is having some issues with the connection, but he should be joining us very soon. So with that, let me actually start the discussion. Blockchain technology is, of course, is a very important emerging technology. But there are also many other technologies, emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, data analytics, and also 3D printing, virtual reality, and you have so many different. There are about 14, 15 different technologies which are identified as promising emerging technologies. But out of these, the most fundamental pillar of the Industrial Revolution 4.0 is actually going to be blockchain technology, because it is going to actually revolutionize the way we conduct business, the way we carry out any kind of transactions, whether it is monetary transactions or documentary transactions. So from that point of view, this is really going to define how we do business in the 21st century. So with that note, I would like to come to our first speaker, Mr. Masood Khan, who is the chairman of the Unilever Consumer Care Bangladesh. So, Mr. Masood Khan, would you please tell us from your perspective that as a industry leader, how can you help propagate, the digital technologies, and how can we bring everybody up to speed in this digital age?
Thank you very much, and thank you, Thriving Skills, for inviting me to this important webinar. So I think the first important point we need to understand is that why is digital leadership important? So if we look at the World Bank 2019 report, Changing Nature of Work, it gives a very interesting analogy. It says that IKEA, we know that IKEA is a giant as far as ready-made furniture is concerned. They set up the company in the year 1943, but it took them 30 years before they came to Europe, and they expanded to Europe. And it reported revenue of around 42 billion after 7 decades. Come Alibaba. Alibaba, in 2 years' time, they reached 1 million users. It accumulated more than 9 million online merchants with annual sales of about 700 billion in 15 years using digital technologies. And McKinsey's research shows that as far as emerging digital ecosystems are concerned, this could account for more than 60 trillion in revenue by 2025. So the point is that there is no doubt about the fact that emerging digital economic ecosystems are expanding at a breakneck speed, much, much more than what we could have fathomed even, let's say, 10 years back, for example, let's say. And this is all due to the fourth industrial revolution. And of course, as the previous speaker said that, so Habibullah said that a lot of emerging technologies are coming. There are a lot more in the pipeline. We know that actually. IoT is another one, very big one actually, right? Internet of Things. So where does the question of leadership in that case come in this thing? And how do we in that case transform business in terms of this new digital ecosystem that we are seeing today? The first and most important thing in my mind is this: because of the speed of change that we see, and this change is really huge. So just to take a very simple example of microprocessors. In the year 2000, microprocessors had a size of 1000 nanometers. This has now come down to around 14 nanometers. On the other hand, if I look at the speed of microprocessors from 2000 to 2019, the speed has actually gone up from 10 megahertz to 5.2 gigahertz. This is one very simple example. We can go on and on in terms of the speed of change that is taking place in today's world as far as emerging digital ecosystems are concerned. So the first and most important thing is this, that leadership now has to see and develop teams that are very agile. You got to be absolutely on your foot because things are changing so fast that you got to adapt and you got to be agile to make sure that you're adapting to the new change. And decision making has to be very, very, very quick actually. We can't just procrastinate. It has to be right on the foot, this decision making we're talking about. This is point number one. Point number two is empowerment and accountability. Because of the fact that we are seeing that a lot of rapid ongoing developments are taking place, we cannot have leadership now which is top-down approach. Because of this huge changes that are taking place, we must make sure that all the teams down below have leadership, and these teams are empowered, they work with autonomy, and they're accountable for the results. The next very important point I would like to emphasize is big data. Big data, because of the digital ecosphere, what is happening is that digital ecosphere is now actually spewing data everywhere in marketplace. You go to a point of sale, it's giving you data. You charge your card, it's giving you data. So data is there everywhere because of this new ecosphere. And there are people who are making money out of this data. For example, Facebook and Google, they make sponsored ad looking at this data. Businesses now have to really embrace data, and which is now we call the data is the new currency. So businesses now have to really understand big data and use big data for business sustainability. One simple example I'll give you that almost all MNCs nowadays, even local companies as well, they capture data at retail point. Many companies use handheld, many companies use mobile. You're getting a wealth of data at the retail point in understanding customer preferences, in understanding customer mindsets. One more important point I would like to emphasize is that we used to say at one point of time, the world is VUCA, volatile. We used to say VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Now we say the world is BANI, brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. We just don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. COVID has shown us actually that. So as leaders, it is very important for us to understand the changes that are taking place and the complexities that are there, and make sure that for the people below us, we understand the issues and make them as simple as possible, these issues. Another very important point I would say is the point regarding innovation. And there is no second to innovation if you have to survive. In 1964, the average age of an SNMP company was around 33 years. And we are now expecting that by 2027, the average age is going to shrink to 12 years. And why? Because people are innovating like mad. People who are in the computer industry at one point of time used to see about Intel, that Intel was just reigning the world as far as processors are concerned. If you see the world today, AMD has taken over in a big way. Share price of AMD is now $98 and Intel is languishing at $40. Why? Look at the processors that AMD has brought out time and again. Ryzen processor, the latest one. So these are all pure innovation we are talking about actually. And you got to innovate to make sure that this chaos, this destruction that is taking place, you ultimately survive this destruction. And leaders now must understand that we must understand what are the emerging technologies. And emerging technologies are happening at breakneck speed. COVID has shown us that actually, in fact, that now we are talking about ride-sharing economy, we are talking about online marketplaces, we are talking about hotel booking, which are actually peer-to-peer. So a lot of opportunities are now coming up actually, in fact. Look at fintech, for example, another good example. Digital banking. Digital banking is now replacing actually brick and mortar banking. Nano banking is now taking over. So you at let's retail point, they are assessing the credit worthiness, and nano banking is now giving loans on this one. Two more things I would say before I conclude. One is that in terms of reskilling, now because of the fact that this change is happening so fast, that now they are saying that at least 54% of the jobs will require reskilling in this new era, and some of these will require, say, 6 to 12 months. Some will require more than 1 month. Last point before I conclude is very simple, and that is when we talk about leadership, the most important point about leadership is that we are talking about managing people and developing the right sort of people. This is the most important point in your mind, or whether you talk of digital evolution or anything, but at the end of the day, it is the leader who really counts. And when we say leadership, we are talking about a number of traits of leadership. The first important point is that, are you able to gain the trust of your subordinates? How do you do that actually? You have high integrity and honesty, you follow through on promise, you lead by example, you treat people with respect, you build genuine relationships, you're very generous on praise, and you take responsibility for failures, you display passion and energy, and you communicate powerfully. So I think if
yes, okay. Right. Okay, thank you, Mr. Masood Khan.
Thank you.
So with that thought on creating an environment of trust, despite everything that's happening with technology, we will now move to our next speaker, Mr. Subur Khan. So, Mr. Subur Khan, we have heard from Mr. Masood Khan regarding the speed of change and the humongous volume of data that is being created in this new business era. So given that, and since you run one of the most digital universities of Bangladesh, how do you see integrating people into this digital ecosystem? So if you will share your thoughts on that.
Well, thank you, Bhai. Thank you for your moderation. And at the same time, I'm sure the previous speaker, Masood Khan, is very rightly pointed out that speed is one of the important factor. And the data, as you also mentioned, that this considering this digital technology or leadership, whatever we can consider, I think this speed data is one of the important, because right time, right decision. Because you see that if you are not creating the high performance environment, then you see the success is inevitable. So that is why I should say that, look, there is a lot of possibility of the people to deliver extraordinary result through the technology. As Masood Khan is mentioned, and some of the example he already pointed out. So I'm sure that, the people like to know that this data should be 100% authentic, because everything new, people are very much aware about the quality, commitment, a lot of cases. You see, if we consider the Western world, they always like to give the commitment that your job will be completed within 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But you see, before 2 weeks, I think 99% cases, they are successful. They are trying to commit in the deadline. But in our cases, Bangladesh, I'm sure that everybody, we know that if we tell that, okay, you will get your job in 7 days, but it will not be happening in the 7 days. Sometimes it may go to the more than 1 year. So that is why I think in the leadership and digital aspect, we must consider, as he also mentioned, Masood Khan, that we need the action, because we need a high performance team. Because as you mentioned that, considering our digital activities, our innovation, I must say that I'm really proud to say that I love to say that I got a very good performing, good teams. Because if you are not getting good e-teams or digital enabling team, I'm sure that it is impossible to run or impossible to sustain. And at the same time, that unleashing innovation, every day there is a new technology is coming. That I say today this seminar is going on also considering the blockchain. Why blockchain is going to be the popular? Because it is allow digital information to be recorded and distributed, but not edited. You see, so that is why I should say that the ledgers is immutable, and definitely the transaction that cannot be altered or cannot be deleted or cannot be destroyed. So that is why I should say that nowadays, the blockchain is going to be the popular. So new innovation need to become, and I'm sure that everybody will agree that the data is already, Masood Khan is also mentioned repeatedly, the data is considered as a currency. Data is considered as a powerful tools. And definitely, if you go to the Bitcoin, and what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is also based on, the cryptocurrencies, using the blockchain and using whatever technology, and everyone, this. So this Bitcoin or the digital currency, you see our finance minister is also yesterday in his budget session, he also repeatedly mentioned that they will more focus on the digital currency or the cryptocurrency. So that is why I should say the continuous, the learning and development need to be involved. As you also mentioned that in our university, we always try to focus, the research should be focused on the real world impact, what's going on to the whole world. I think we need to consider it. So every semester or every month, we are trying to send our people to the lot of other university in the overseas country to know the reality, what they're doing. So that is why the real world, real data analysis, and of course the smart funding, because a lot of cases, a lot of organizations, they don't like to invest money. I hope that as Mr. Habibullah Karim, I hope that you already aware about it. Everybody is eager to use the technology, but they don't like to ensure the smart funding. Because if you're not ensured the funding, I am sure that it is impossible to make the digitalization. And at the same time, you see that nowadays, that the blending learning, or, there's physical and digital, this total technology is also going to be the very popular, because due to this COVID-19, everybody is understand. So this mentality of the academician also need to be analyzed through the data, because again, I repeatedly told that data and analytics need to be considered not only the faculty. If you just consider as a decision maker, as a board of trustee, if I myself or our team is already analyzed, I think never we can present the update curriculum focusing on the outcome-based education. And definitely, that university earlier, the library is considered as a vast knowledge hub. Or a lot of cases, it was considered that in respect of sustainable university, you library and other information. But now is the data, now is the digital technology, now is innovation, now is creativity. So these sorts of matters need to be considered. And everyone, we know what happened in the whole world in every 60 seconds. I think every 60 seconds, there's a tremendous change. As Masood Khan is also mentioned, I hope that everybody will agree that the quantum computer is already in the market. So whenever commercially it will be spread to the everywhere, how much change will be coming? I think all lifestyle, all business entity and everything will be changed. I think the financial organization and every sector will be rapid change. As we know that the before mobile technology, what was our scenario in our country? But after mobile, what is the scenario in our country? So that is why I should say that thank you Thriving Skill to organizing this wonderful session. And I'm sure that again, I should say the leadership, technological development, disruption, embrace the new technology and must give the honor to the innovative people. I must say, I always love to say that because one of the key strengths for every organization should be to honor the young and new talent. Because if we are not nurtured the new talent, I think the talent like us, because 33 years, maybe we can able to implement a lot of new idea. Because if I am telling the Habibullah and Karim, I think it is impossible now to bring the new idea by Habibullah because he has multiple engagement. He is a leader now. You are a leader now. So if you can like to change your company, if you like to change the country, you need to create a lot of the good leader, new entrepreneur or new startup or new people. So that is the core strength, I should say, the considering the digital technology or digital change. And thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Subul Khan, for those thoughts. And of course, as a university founder, you are building the future leaders of the country. So, now I will go back to Mr. Masood Khan, the young people that are coming out from the universities with degrees in computer science or BBA or MBA, it is the industry people, industry leaders like you who are hiring and employing them and grooming them up to take up positions in the economy and the industry in the coming years. So, and in your first round, you have spoken about, a whole, slew of technologies that are affecting our lives, both in industry and as well as in our day-to-day lives. But what I would like to know from you is, particularly in your context, as a business leader for your organization, as a management leader for your organization, how do you see this confluence of people and technology taking shape? As Mr. Subul Khan also pointed out, that these days we have to give emphasis on innovation, and people are people should focus more on results, more on their analytic abilities rather than rote learning. So these are all part of qualities that we want to see in future leaders. So how are you building those future leaders?
Thank you very much. So the first thing is that I think you raised the point that how do we blend the issue of technology and people? I think that's the first point that you raised. So I think the first important point is that I think we all understand now that technology is here to stay. And people who are now joining organizations, they have to be tech savvy. And they must understand how can we leverage technology in our business. I give you one example. Let's say, for example, in Unilever, we make sure that whatever salesmen go to the retail point, they capture a lot of data at the retail point. Apart from just getting the order, they get a lot of market information about the buying behaviors of customers as well. So these are very important points we are talking about in terms of leveraging technology. The second point is that how do we now question the question now is that sometimes what we do is that in our haste to use technology, sometimes we do not do a proper cost-benefit analysis. I'll give you a very practical example to illustrate what I'm saying actually, in fact. Let's say, for example, in today's world, small businesses, big businesses, they all go for ERP by and large because they've seen the benefits of ERP. But before going to ERP, they don't really do a proper business case to understand what are the benefits I'll get of this ERP. And as a result of this ERP, what is the scale of using this ERP? How big ERP should be? We don't normally think of these issues. We just jump headlong into technology, invest a lot of money, and we find that ultimately the people who are running ERP, they're not properly trained, they can't use the ERP properly, and so a lot of money is spent without getting any benefits. So these are issues that we have got to think in today's world to make sure that people are properly trained. This training, there is no substitute training. We must make sure that in this, especially in this digital ecosphere that we are talking about, where technology is happening at such a breakneck speed, you must have trained people. And I talked about this issue of reskilling in my earlier speech also, where I said that now more than ever, people have to be reskilled far, far more than we have thought before. So a lot of people will have to change jobs, for example, let's say, because digital technology is taking over now. In ERP, for example, there was a time when we used to enter, let's say, accounts payable invoices. Today, for example, you can use RPA, robotic process automation, to automate this process. So in future, people are going to lose jobs. They've got reskill actually, in fact. So this issue is very critical in today's context, the issue of training, the issue of reskilling, and the issue of making sure that people are able to handle pressure, because the pressure is growing day by day with this constant change that is taking place. People don't like changes. So the more changes take place, the more people get anxious. So here's a time when you have got to do a lot of handholding of people to make sure that they understand the change that is happening, that's for the benefit, and ultimately they are adaptable to the new technology. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Masood Khan. I think those are all very valid points, very vital points that we, all the young people. I hope lots of young people are listening in to this panel discussion, because this will definitely benefit them. So, so this is, very important that the young generation, of course, they are more digitally savvy than the earlier generations. So that will help them in gaining the skills that are necessary to survive in this new age. But as you have also said that knowing new skills is not enough. You have to be ready to acquire new skills all the time. That is part of the new ecosystem. That is part of the new job scenario that we have, that somebody who is a truck driver today may not have a job once all trucks become automated. So then they'll have to look for new jobs. Today, somebody who is doing a clerical accounting work may not have a job tomorrow, because RPA or robotic process automation will take up those jobs. Then they'll have to look for new skills, maybe graphics or creative arts or something that they might be good at, that we have to discover. So with that point in view, let me come back to Mr. Subul Khan for the last round, is that you are actually training up people for this new environment through your university. Thousands of students go to your university in the aspiration of learning new skills, knowing or learning new things and acquiring new skills that will allow them to survive in this new environment of Industrial Revolution 4.0, where, as Mr. Masood Khan has said, change is a constant threat. So in that environment, how do you actually impart these skills to your students? Because your curriculum takes a lot of time to change, right? You cannot change curriculum every year or every 6 months, but you must, I'm sure you have found a way to impart the necessary skills to your students so that they can actually acquire these skills as the situation changes. And while you speak on that, I would also like you to tell us a little bit more about the innovation fund that you have put together under the Daffodil Group in order to encourage young, go for startup ventures. So these two things, if you can, talk on, discuss now. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I give you the first answer, second answer first. So it will be. I'm sure that it will keep clear for you. First of all, you see that whenever the COVID-19 is affected, I think we took one great initiative. We just firstly introduce our technology, whatever we already implemented, as Masood Khan has already mentioned, that a lot of the companies already invested or implemented ERP, but somehow they are not utilizing it 100% or properly. So in the COVID-19 scenario, I think that this was a great opportunity for our group or our family, Daffodil family. We just implemented the system in such a way, we made everyone bound to go through the system. Because every month the system is analyzed, how much performance or how much contribution and value addition he or she is doing to the company. So based on the outcome of the system, we can easily identify who performing 100%, who performing 80%, who performing below standard. So then we bring them, all of them, because at the time of the COVID, a lot of the people are facing the salary problem, a lot of the things are problem, but we are trying our best to help people or all of our staff. So please, you use the technology, we'll take care about your salary, but you must go through the system. Without system, we will not evaluate you. First 1 or 2 months, we face the tremendous problem, but later on, slowly, I think everyone is habituated. At the same time, the student is also not aware because they know the Google meeting, they know Zoom, but we already introduced the blended learning center. It's called the BLC. So through this BLC, all of the course curriculum, all of the lecture, all of the resources, we are trying to bring in a one platform, like as one of the learning management system, but that is very interactive. We are using the online proctoring, we are using a lot of the assessment tools. So what happened, the student is also learn while they are studying in our university. Because a lot of cases, students, whenever they get the graduation, after going to any of the company, they do not know the proper technology. But now you see admission to everything, we are implemented in our university. Even the student paying their tuition fee through their smart card, we call the one card. They're paying their all of the payment, cafeteria or whatever kiosk or every place, even the transport system, they are paying from the one card. So these sorts of system we are trying to implement at the grassroots level. So whatever the teacher also know day to day, because as you already mentioned that it is very tough to change the course curriculum every year. But again, we are trying to use the technology because technology is overnight, you can change it. Every month there's a new technology is coming. We are trying to give them the proper training and habituate them to use the technology. So this is called and how can we get the innovative people? You already mentioned. So we also implemented one fantastic system. Every month, all of our concern, we have 54 concern in our family. So all of the concern had the first month and second month in the COVID-19, they are giving the presentation. But after this 2 months presentation, it was making a mandatory that all other stuff face by face, they need to give the presentation. So through this presentation of the new people, we are trying to find out the new innovative and creative people. And by this way, we are getting every month we are getting the new leader, change maker, whom we are giving the promotion or giving them some incentive and trying to bring them in the core team. So this is the one of the way we are trying to find out the right people, right leader. And also it is not only this company, I think the teaching level is also we implemented, because every month you will be surprised that all of our department head and their subordinate must need to give the present of their activities, how much mentoring they are doing, what sorts of problem is coming from the artificial intelligence. They can analyze that is there any chance that some of the student is going to be dropped, because to seeing the financial transaction, class interaction, mentoring, easily we can identify the how much student will be dropped in the next 2 to 3 semesters. So these sorts of technology we are trying to every day. And at the same time, you also first question that course curriculum, and I hope that you will be happy to know that from our university, we are trying always the new subject. And the multimedia and creative technology you already implemented, I think before 12 years back. I'm sure that the whole Bangladesh, I think majority of the market, our students are dominating now. And now we are again going to introduce another subject, completely creative technology based on the innovation and change maker. And this course is also we are developing, and we are hopeful that we will start in the very soon. So this is the one of the way we are trying, and also inside the campus, As Masood Khan is also mentioned that robotics, of course, you know that without robot, I think in future we cannot consider ourselves also. So that's why we also developed a robotics labs. We also developed the innovation lab. So through this innovation lab, what happened? There is a lot of commercial 3D printer, a lot of CNC cutting machine, a lot of the component we are bringing inside the innovation lab. So students are coming, they are trying to produce their innovative idea and try to commercialize through this innovation center, and we are giving them funding. And I hope that you will be happy to know that from in our university, we also developed one entrepreneurship development fund, which is called EDF. It is completely interest-free, no hidden charge, nothing. So a few crore of taka we also keeping for this entrepreneurship development fund. That is all of the innovative idea we are trying to help them. So this is the some of the few of the way we are trying to implement slowly. But again, I hope that you will agree, and Masood Khan is already mentioned, because mindset, people don't like to unlearn. Everyone is trying to stay in their comfort zone. That is the big headache or big challenge for us. But again, we are trying day by day to unlearn our people, giving them, because now the system is also evaluated, and you see that they cannot challenge the system, because all of the KPI, all of the rubrics we are set through the system. So system is identify, hello, Mr. X, your performance in this month is 90% or below standard. If it is going to be the below standard 3 to 4 months, then usually they understood that they cannot continue. And at the same time, we also develop one human resource development institute. If their performance is going to be low, we sending them for the training 3 to 4 months. So make them first unlearn and then relearn. So this is some of the way we are trying to implement.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Subur Khan. Those are some really brilliant initiatives to keep people always on their toes, to learn new technology, and also to see how they're progressing, to continuously measure their learning ability, so that they can make course corrections to make sure they are up to speed with their peers when learning a new subject or learning a new skill or learning a new technology. We have just a few minutes, so what I'll do is I'll go back to each one of you for some concluding thoughts. So first to Mr. Masood Khan, because you have touched upon a very interesting point in your last round of deliberations, where you talked about, everybody is implementing ERP but not getting the results. And you're absolutely right, because ERP is actually a second stage development. First, you got to have your standard operating procedures in place. Unless you have those defined, putting an ERP system is not going to do anything for you. So these are process developments. That is something that is missing in most of Bangladesh. So your concluding thoughts on how we can be more process-centric, and secondly, what do you look for in a new job applicants when they come and apply to your company?
Thank you. So first of all, I worked in multinational companies for 38 years. I was in British American Tobacco for 20 years and Lafarge Suma for 18 years. So as MNCs, I think the first bread and butter is that we define every business process, without which we just cannot work. And by doing this, what is happening is that people are not very important actually. Who comes and who goes is not very important. What is important is the defined processes. They come, they see the processes, they implement that. If somebody goes, somebody else comes, they know exactly what is to be done. This is how MNCs actually work actually, in fact. So, and so when we go for ERP, for example, the first is that we make sure that what is the as-is process and what is the to-be process, and then thereafter we define the ERP actually, in fact. So the next question that you ask is that when people apply in our organizations, what do we try to see? First of all, if I'm talking about, let's say, in most cases, entry-level graduates, so obviously, this is first of all a very rigorous screening, because thousands of job applicants are there. So how do I sort actually? So obviously, unfortunately, we look at the best universities, we look at the results to do this sorting part actually. Of course, the extracurricular activities are seen. Once they apply for the job and the interview takes place, there are a few things we try to understand from this person that we're going to hire actually, in fact. The first and most important is that how good are his communication skills, number one. Number two is that how good are his cognitive skills, because reasoning skills are very important in today's complex world. And number three is that how good is he as a team player? Is he going to work well in teams? Because in today's world, nobody can solve a problem alone. We have to have people working in teams. And you find often that people who have done brilliant results sometimes are not good team players because they have a complex with themselves actually. So that's the reason why we try to understand the person that we're hiring, how good is in terms of team, being a team player, how good, let's say, he is in terms of influencing other people about his ideas, how good are his cognitive skills. For that, we do an assessment center for the interview actually, and we try to find out the people that we are hiring are having the right skill set that we are looking for. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Masood Khan. You have really pointed out the three key points that all people of the young generation should take note. Is first is the communication skills. It's a soft skill that many people ignore at their own peril. Second is, of course, teachability or learning, their learning ability, their cognizance skills. And third, of course, is being part of a team, how to actually leverage skills of a group. That is very, very essential in today's world because you cannot do everything by yourself. So I'll come to now Mr. Subur Khan for your parting thoughts, concluding thoughts regarding how the young generation can use technology and their learning ability to put them on a path of success in the coming decades. Mr. Subur Khan.
Thank you, Karim bhai. I'm just completely agree and echoing with Masood Khan because in professional aspect, I think he already pointed out all of the right point. But besides this, as a businessman, what exactly we are expecting from any of the new people, we always like to see they need to understand the result oriented. That they should be the doers. Because always we love to say that they need to know what is called the value addition. Because at the end of the day, they are working a lot. Because majority cases we are find that a lot of senior, junior, experienced people, they are working like a clerical job. They are coming, they are doing job. But how much it is output based? A lot of cases they do not know what exactly called the return of investment. So these sorts of matter we are facing repeatedly, and we are trying to develop our people. And whenever we are getting some of the few people, those who are challenge taker and those have that doers mentality. And usually another technique we are now using, because a lot of cases when we are finding that he has as Masood Khan is mentioned, he don't have the team spirit. So then we just push him or her to go through some training. So we have some training that can you do this in team building development, this training, or target focus, because a lot of cases the people, that's a young people nowadays, they are coming, I think they don't have the clear target, no focus, no goal. So it is very tough to recruit them. But again, there is a few people, those we are finding that they have the really clear goal, clear focus, clear target. So that is I should say that the value addition is need to be considered as one of the key component, because whole day they are working. So whenever we are asking that what value you already add or what revenue you are bringing, because as a business entity, you always need to survive, because if we cannot bring the revenue, how can we give the good salary to our people? So if I'm considered that when I'm starting my business in almost 33 years back, I think in that time my staff was only 3 to 4, but today my staff is more than 5,000, and definitely I think I'm paying them a lot. Some of them is huge salary. So if I cannot sustain, if I cannot bring the revenue, if I cannot add value to the company, I think I cannot sustain, or my company cannot sustain in the long run. So that is why we always love to see the new people or the innovative or creative people, they have this sort of doers mentality and leadership mentality or not. Thank you.
Okay, now thank you, Mr. Subur Khan, for your parting thoughts. That issue about adding value through his or her job or work is very, very essential, and that's where knowledge and skills and technology adoption plays a major role. So I want to thank Thriving Skill for organizing this session on industry leadership in this digital age. So I want to thank Mr. Masood Khan, the chairman of the Unilever Consumer Care Limited, and Mr. Sabur Khan, the chairman of the Daffodil International University, for joining us in this very exhilarating panel. And I hope the listeners have enjoyed the deliberations and have picked up the many very exciting points raised by both the speakers for building successful careers in this new age of Industrial Revolution 4.0. So thank you all. So goodbye from Driving Skills Blockchain Summit.
And thank you very much, Masood bhai. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon.